Week.
Yes,
Suzanne.
Mayor, this evening with Creek Week, we have Allie, and she is on Zoom with us, so she can introduce her proclamation that you'll read into the record and a short video that she would like to share.
Thank you. Do we have her up on Zoom?
You have her, Rob?
Participants. Let me see.
Rob. Hey, Rob, is it question 2?
It's cleanup time. You're invited to help beautify our watershed during Creek Week, the largest cleanup program in Colorado. This year's events run September 26th through October 4th from Palmer Lake to Pueblo and beyond. All ages and abilities can participate in this socially distanced, outdoors, fun, and rewarding activity. Trash bags, gloves, grabbers, and more will be provided. Register your Creek Crew or join a public cleanup at www.fountaincreekweek.com.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Allie Shook. I'm the Watershed Outreach Coordinator for the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Greenway District. And we are so excited because COVID has not gotten the better of Creek Week. We're still able to offer this program to volunteers throughout the communities that are within the watershed. And the headwaters of Fountain Creek starts right behind the Walmart up there in Woodland Park. And we would love to have some volunteers up there participate in a cleanup. We have, like the commercial said, we have bags and gloves and grabbers. We have educational material. We can help coordinate a site that would work for you and your team. And all that information is on our website, www.fountaincreekweek.com. And just look forward to seeing everybody out there making our communities cleaner and safer.
Thank you. We need to turn up the mics, I guess.
Mayor, there's some questions too.
That's a question. Council, questions?
Mayor, what day is this cleanup? It's a week, so what day is it scheduled here for Woodland Park?
Allie, can you hear us?
Yeah, this is Allie. I have not heard from anyone in Woodland Park, unfortunately, about an event. So I'd love to help facilitate that for you. The cleanups run Saturday, September 26th through the following Sunday. So there's 2 full weekends and the week in the middle. And we have had a lot of the school groups participate up there, but being things as they are with COVID, I haven't heard from any of the teachers yet either. So we'd love to support a volunteer effort up there.
Who's your usual contact here?
We've had support from the Teller Park Conservation District in the past, and I did reach out to them, haven't heard back. And like I said, a couple of the school groups, especially with the Catamount Institute's environmental education programs, they were kind of facilitating some of those, and I'm not sure what their current situation is with Catamount.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask
Yes.
Rob to please turn down whatever microphone is buzzing, please? Whatever is buzzing, can we, I can't, it's really distracting.
It's hard to hear her.
Thank you.
Oh, that's better. Yeah. Keep Woodland Park beautiful. Are they
Thank
doing
you for
anything?
the interruption.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
Well, I think Councilmember Zuluaga and I had some questions about it this morning. We were on a telephone call. We don't really have a point of contact established. Would this fall under the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful committee, or I don't know?
Or Main Street cleanup?
I mean, we don't have a specific date. We have no support plan behind it. So I'd like to see a little bit, something more formal, and then the proclamation. I think that's what we were getting at this morning.
Yeah.
I think we support it. It's just there's nothing planned behind a proclamation right now.
Maybe we could reach out to staff to find us a point of contact.
Mayor Sally has.
Yes.
I'll certainly reach out to Allie and see if we can't coordinate something with volunteers here in Woodland Park, because Fountain Creek does need attention, but the community-wide cleanup is going to be on September 26th.
Correct.
And usually I do assign someone to the Walmart area for creek cleaning.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'll touch on last year, we had a member of the Colorado Springs utilities staff who lives in the city of Woodland Park to help champion this. I'll reach out to her to see if she's still available. Yeah, so she was here. She's the one who presented last year to us. So I'll reach out to her and see if she still wants to champion this effort in the city of Woodland Park.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With that, Mayor Carr, I think I'm comfortable signing the proclamation now that we have something specific behind it. Thank you.
All right, I will read the proclamation. Proclamation recognizing Creek Week 2020. The city of Woodland, whereas the city of Woodland Park is fortunate to have extensive and diverse natural resources, such as riparian areas, lakes, creeks, and a wide variety of open spaces. And whereas the Fountain Creek watershed is a unique and important resource and asset to the residents and visitors of Fountain, Woodland Park, and the Pikes Peak region. And whereas the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Greenway District is partnering with the city of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, Pueblo County, the cities of Manitou Springs, Fountain, and the towns of Monument and Green Mountain Falls, and numerous community organizations to coordinate the 7th annual Creek Week cleanup, which will encourage the protection, restoration, and maintenance of the Fountain Creek watershed. And whereas this 9-day litter cleanup effort runs September 26th through October 4th, 2020, throughout the watershed, and is now the largest cleanup effort in our state. And whereas the Creek Week programs and activities are designed to raise awareness about the littering issue within our watershed, to encourage organizations and individuals to collect litter and debris to make Fountain Creek and the watershed cleaner and safer. And whereas businesses, churches, schools, nonprofits, neighborhood associations, youth groups, service clubs, and individuals are encouraged to form a Creek Week to clean up a Creek Week project site, a creek crew to clean up a Creek Week project site. And whereas the Creek Week litter removal activities will reduce pollution in our creeks and clogs in our waterways that can lead to flooding, provide for a safer drinking water supply, and enhance wildlife habitat and property values. Now, therefore, the council members of the city of Woodland Park, Colorado, hereby proclaim the September 26th through October 4th, 2020 as Creek Week in the city of Woodland Park, and encourage our citizens to help protect, restore, and maintain our waterways by participating in Creek Week activities done this day, 17th of September, 2020, in the city of Woodland Park, Colorado. Thank you, Council. Next, we have additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Having none, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have one item on the consent calendar, and that is the approval of the August 2020 Statement of Expenditures and the authorization for the mayor to sign the warrants in payment thereof.
Council, if there's any discussion wanted on any of these items, we'll entertain moving this off a consent calendar. Council Member Zuluaga.
Yes, Mayor, I have some questions on some of the monthly budget items. So I would like to see the August Statement of Expenditures either open for discussion now before we approve it or moved.
City Attorney, can you weigh in?
As far as typically a consent calendar will have multiple items on it, since this is the only item, I don't know that it makes sense to move it and then hear it anyways. Okay. So whatever questions you have, I think are appropriate. If there was multiple items, you would remove the one item you want to talk about and keep the others, but it's all one thing. So
I see our finance director all prepared to help us out.
Oh, great, Emily. So for those of you who have the items, if you want to refer to it in your packet, it's check number 110342 to Dell Marketing. And the amount is $1,740.45.
Okay, so that's for the UCC.
For the what?
The cultural center.
That's what I was kind of not clear about. How is it we have nearly $1,000 expense for a point of sale at the UPass Cultural Center?
Still operating. Yeah.
Yeah, they are still operating, so they have to have a way to accept
Payments for rental.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question? Were these questions posed to the finance director prior to the meeting?
Yeah.
So that she would have an opportunity to be able to answer them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're not picking up that mic very well.
Just weren't answered before the meeting. Yeah. My question is just because I was just wondering why they weren't answered before the meeting.
She elected not to.
Oh.
Yeah. And I would just like to make, I'd just like to make it clear that one of the reasons that I ask you these questions is because if they come to my mind for question, I'm really sure that the community would also like to know. And you might have a really simple answer for them, and that's great. But if they come to my awareness, I'd like to bring them up to council so that the community can see them.
So my response was actually that I was asked if you wanted to set up a meeting or give me a call because I was working on the budget. So I wasn't able to answer your questions by email.
And that's fine, but so for the record, I would like it to be discussed. And so now you're having that opportunity. And so my next one is 110349. It's the lighter side of Christmas expense for $2,500 brochures.
Right. So that's the, it's basically part of the city's marketing budget to help out with that community event. So we give funds so that they can print brochures for that event.
The reason it came up to my mind was I thought the event was canceled.
No, it's not. It's
No,
still,
it's still going?
It will be. Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's going in the form of a sidewalk sale on the Saturday of the event. So it's not a parade. It ends up being an event where they're still going to have shopping and shopping in our local downtown businesses.
Okay, good.
And the brochure markets all the activities
Yes, it
going
does.
on, including the home tour and a number of business activities as well.
Well, I think that's great. So we are moving forward. We're doing something. And so I'm good with that. I just wasn't aware that I thought that had all collapsed. So this is good news.
And the day before that, on that Friday, we'll have tree lighting and we'll have the fireworks.
And just to add to it also, the home tour is moving forward with a virtual and an in-person tour that's very much modified in order to accommodate the county's regulations and their permit for them to move forward with that. So they're doing the best they can also to provide that activity for the holidays, that's our kickoff day really for the holidays.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Does this include the courier insert that we have annually?
Is anyone in the city going to answer that? Does it include the courier insert?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Well, then that may answer three of my other ones, which was 110387, the Gazette on community marketing for $1,450.
Yes. So that's related. And then there's also, you had a question about High Mountain Messenger and then Pikes Peak Television Shop Local campaign. So those are all marketing, which is in our marketing budget for community events.
Okay, so, and I don't know if this is a proper place to ask that question, but how much of the marketing, community marketing is done by the city distinct from the visitor center?
You mean budget-wise? I know we have 18,000 budgeted for this year.
Okay.
Those are typically towards events for the city. It's separate from just the general marketing of the city citywide. So these are, we have specific marketing that we do for events throughout the year, like for instance, the July 4th event. So that's where that budget usually goes.
Okay, thank you. A big item on here that came up is 110451 RMS electrical sign to the amount of $11,804.99.
So that's the UPass Cultural Center's new sign, their electronic sign that you've probably seen if you've driven by there.
So is that an expense the city's taken on in conjunction with the chamber, or is that?
Yes, so in agreement with the visitor center, the contract fee was lowered in order to pay for this. So it was basically an exchange.
The marketing exchange, another marketing initiative. So as you know, most of the budget for the visitor center goes to marketing. And there was a collaborative effort because that sign had not been replaced for well over a decade to do the installation on that sign as part of their marketing effort to market the visitor center.
So RMS is connected with the visitor center in some way? Well, how do we get a discount? I guess that's what
discount. What'd you say?
Did you say we got it?
No, it's a marketing initiative for the visitor center and the UPass Culture Center in general, signage.
So I think to what you're trying to get at is where did the money come from? Yeah. I think the money, we reduced the typical 40,000. I don't know.
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know the budget, but I think we reduced the give or the payment for the visitor center functioning
correct
to pay for this. So the total is still the same, 40,000, I believe.
Oh, some of it was offset.
But some of this was geared towards this project as opposed to geared towards direct marketing campaigning.
Okay, good. Thank you. That clears it up a lot. And I'll leave a couple, but the last one is 110482 for the Mutual of Omaha. There's a life insurance payment for $3,904.97. Whose life are we insuring?
All of the
all
city
employees.
staff, all of ours.
What's that?
That's our that is our payment to Mutual of Omaha for our life insurance.
Really? Wow, that's a good bit. Okay. I didn't know that we did that. So
well, and this staff pays into it, and then the city does as well. So it's part of the benefit package.
Is that a monthly charge or biweekly or what?
I think it's monthly. I think it is a monthly charge, correct?
Thank you, Emily. That's been helpful. And I think the assistant. Go ahead, City Clerk.
Mayor, I just wanted to add, when we were talking about the parade and all of the activities that weekend, I met with Mrs. Levy today, the late mayor's wife, and we are going to be having the dedication of the Levy ball field on that Saturday. Originally, we were going to have it the week of Thanksgiving, but we have scheduled it now for that December 5th. And we will publicize that and all, but I wanted to mention that that's taking place that day as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Council, any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the August expenditures.
I will second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Carr?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Neal?
Yes.
Path?
Yes.
Zulawaga?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. We're down to public comment on items not on the agenda. I have a single speaker who would like to get up, Mr. Buttery.
David Buttery, resident of Woodland Park for 23 years. Mayor and Council, I was saddened but not surprised that Mayor Carr failed to provide you with the staff report along with the Vehicle Utilization Review Committee VERC report. The reason to me is clear. The staff report negated every single allegation set forth in the committee's report. In fact, when the staff report was to be presented before the council and the public, a council member who supported then Council Member Carr's assertion convinced the council that the VERC was only intended to provide suggestions, and there was no need to hear the staff report. The staff report was the culmination of truly countless hours of collecting data and then thorough analysis. The committee did give their report to council and the public. The staff was not allowed to. Now, don't get me wrong. Then Councilmember Carr's unsubstantiated claim that the city had 17 excess light vehicles caused the staff to immediately realize that there were 2 older vehicles that were used as backups that could be and were eliminated. Mr. Carr could not specifically identify any of the supposed excess vehicles, only that he knew the city was excess 17. The staff report included validation of the remaining light vehicles. The validation was so strong that it was not allowed to be presented to the council and the public. Further, historically, and I'm sure currently, the staff takes vehicle maintenance and replacement seriously, constantly analyzing needs, not once. Some members of the council-appointed VERC didn't have their input included in the VERC report, as that was controlled by Committee Chair Carr. For further information on that dynamic, please contact VERC member Darwin Nacarado at dnacca@msn.com. Once again, as I have said before, I urge you to do your own independent research. Don't be fooled by those claiming to be experts. This letter was sent to the council on Tuesday. Thank you.
And Mayor Carr, if I could address one question that we had, is really a statement on Zoom saying that we need to address Fountain Creek. I think we've handled that. So Rob's going to say that we've answered that live. And typically we don't respond to questions, but you certainly can, I guess.
Thank you. I'm going to take a brief moment that's not typical here, but basically the VERC countered everything that was stated in that dissertation just now and all the staff report. It was contrary to that. It was studied by a blue ribbon committee, and no council persons were omitted from it at all. It wasn't my report. It was a committee report. John Schaefer, frankly, was the one who was going to produce that. He was sick that day, so the assertion that it was my report is incorrect. But anybody else in the audience for anything not on the agenda? Public comments. Thank you.
Mayor Carr, could I add something to what you were just saying too? I know it's non-standard, but I did read the report, both the VERC report and the staff report. I think both documents are actually very valuable documents. The VERC has an enormous amount of data, and it states up front it is data only, but for engineers and a lot of people, data doesn't mean information. The value of adding the second report is it gave it the operational context. So when you look at the VERC report that recommended about 15 vehicles-ish.
Specifically, by the way, contrary to the statement that nothing was identified, but very specific vehicles were identified, yes.
Correct. The data was very, very useful in my mind. I went through every single one of them, as a matter of fact. I haven't finished because I know I'm supposed to vote, you know, where that stands up in the priority list. I don't know if once you overlay the staff report's operational data or facts, it becomes processed data, which means it's information. I thought the information was useful. I think there's probably a few vehicles in there that we can look at. We might be able to get 2 to 4 vehicle reduction because it's outdated. The city manager, you did provide that list, which did clarify, because there are a lot of vehicles that, if you look at the 2 reports, as Mr. Butterfield had suggested, the vehicles do not align. As an example, I think it's vehicle 44. There are 2 different ones listed. 17 has got. My bottom line statement is great piece of work on the VERC, great piece of staff work to explain it. I think a little bit more work on the part of the city council is in line. I think there are a couple vehicles that we would all agree probably could be looked at as a way of saving a few bucks. It's not 15 vehicles, but it's not 1 or 2. It's a few more. Thank you.
Thank you. I sent something out this afternoon that kind of says, here's some great stuff, we're moving on. So
Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate that. Councilmember Pat.
Yeah, the former city manager always has a prerogative as a citizen, and we greatly appreciate it that he speaks as a citizen. He's also speaking as a former city manager. And these types of reports are very useful. I agree with Councilmember Neal's analysis. In the main, there might be details that we'll discuss along the way. But the substance of what Councilmember Neal has said, I think, is quite valid to recognize here. When staff or anyone who does analysis puts together a report, that's also always useful information. The purpose of it is for the council to take under advisement. We're in an era right now where elected officials at every level of government are asked to go in line with the experts, so-called. And that is what we're supposed to marry ourselves to, because they're experts. And what do we know? We may not have expertise in these particular areas. The way that governing bodies work, especially in relationship to whomever might be employed or contracted by government agencies to provide information, is for the use of giving proper information that can be taken under advisement and used to make determinations of what legislatively might be done. Whereas I agree with Councilmember Neal that the work was well done. I'm still going through it myself, and that's very helpful. Data is fantastic. It's the conclusions that we have to determine. One of the in this era of supposedly certain people being unscientific in their evaluation of various things, the reality is that one must not need to be a scientist to be able to draw conclusions. That is the area of rationality. So this council will take the information under advisement, and there will be a vote based upon what anyone feels. But let me make it very clear. The authority of the report is in the usefulness of the data, not the assertions of those making the report that certain actions must be taken.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. Today we have the Visitor Center. We had an executive session that talked about various issues which are still privately held. One of the things I want to mention is that we need to give notice on that contract. Staff should give notice. We need a 30-day notice. That should happen anyway, regardless of how we end up putting this to the actions that I'll speak of in a moment. We need to give 30 days written notice, please. What's on the agenda tonight really is an extension of what we did in executive session. And that is to decide whether we're going to do a request for proposal or not do a request for proposal, and for the visitor center.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask 30-day notice of what?
Of the contract. It says the agreement shall be renewed automatically for additional one-year terms, providing a 30-day written notice is not to renew. The agreement is given.
And when was that decision made?
It's in
by
the
this council.
It's in the current contract.
So
but was the decision made by this council that the contract would not be continued? I don't remember that action being taken.
So I guess at this point, no action has been taken. It's my understanding from staff's perspective that changes need to be made to the contract either way. So as it currently sits, we don't want it to renew under its current language.
Thank you. That's exactly what I
but we're
wanted
still
to know
waiting
was
on
what
direction.
It was we were giving notice of.
Yeah, we're waiting on your direction as to where we're going, but we know that the current contract won't renew exactly as it's worded.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
And I'll clarify.
Some historical perspective here. We ran out of time. We've done this. This is our third year that we're doing this. And one of the reasons that it didn't happen before was because we supposedly ran out of time to give notice. So we're putting it on the table, if you will.
Mr. Mayor.
Darren.
Yeah, if I can clarify further, sorry, council member. So just to clarify what your question was, a notice would be needed to either accept the proposal that was provided to council or to go to RFP. So that's kind of why there's a need to amend the contract either way. So just, that makes sense. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Paff.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Councilmember Case expressed a certain opinion there. I just want to clarify, the mayor was stating clearly that what the terms of the contract were. He was not stating any business that we've done on the council, and was beckoning us to consider how we might react to the terms of the contract, if in any manner.
Yeah,
the terms of the contract seem to allow certain automatic provisions and some other things, but there are certain steps that the council needs to take. And so the mayor was very clearly not trying to act on behalf of council, but was very clearly stating what the contract required. And then as it seems he was attempting to do, offer council to make motions or considerations related to the terms of the contract.
Thank you. The city attorney answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So without further ado,
I guess the matter on the table at this point, and we'll pass out ballots, is whether or not we're going to proceed forward with an RFP process or not. Based on that vote, we'll bring back further options at a later meeting as appropriate, or move forward with an RFP if that's the case.
So Mayor, for council's clarification, there's 2 lines. One is RFP and one is no RFP, and just check the one that's your choice, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, with your permission, I'll read them into the record.
Please, Suzanne. Thank you.
Council Member Zulawaga would like us to do an RFP. Council Member Paff would like us to do an RFP. Mayor Carr would like an RFP. Mayor Pro Tem Labar would like an RFP. Council Member Neal would like an RFP. And Council Member Case said no to RFP. So we will be doing an RFP with the vote of 5-1.
Thank you. And my understanding is you're very close, minus a legal pass with our esteemed expert, to proceed on that. Thank you. Ordinances on initial posting. To consider ordinance number 1383, series 2020. And I will hand this over to our esteemed planning director, Sally Riley.
Thank you, Mayor Carr, council members. This is ordinance 1382 on initial posting to amend portions of the municipal code that include Title 16 for mobile homes, Title 18 zoning, Title 20 flood damage prevention regulations. The proposed code amendments are generally related to single-family dwelling units in multifamily urban and multifamily suburban zones and setting a public hearing. I'd like to begin by just mentioning that I'll do a very brief overview of the process and results of the Planning Commission's work and the council's work on this code amendment. But I would like to request tabling this first reading in order to provide council with additional time so that you can continue to study the language and evaluate the proposed ordinance and be able to have time to ask staff any questions that you may have regarding the work that the Planning Commission has accomplished over the last 9 months. So the Planning Commission, actually it's been a year. They started in September of 2019 and worked through identifying the problem, studying the history and the language in the zoning regulations, discussing various options, and then hosting a joint work session with Council and Planning Commission. And then Council also had a follow-up work session on July 9th. The draft ordinance did go forward with a public hearing at the end of August with Planning Commission, and that was approved 8-1. Commissioner Larson voted against it because he felt strongly that single-family uses should be allowed in a higher density zone. So with that, the content of this code amendment reflects the feedback that Council has provided to the Planning Commission, which was to eliminate the option of allowing single-family units at a higher density in these multifamily zones. So the way this is currently written is that only one single-family home could be placed on a tract of land that is zoned for multifamily. And just to recap, the number of parcels that this would affect is quite limited. In the MFS suburban zone, there are actually only 4 parcels that are undeveloped in the city, and they equate to a total of 36 acres. In the MFU zone, there are only 3 parcels right now that are undeveloped, and that equates to about 50 acres. So the table, it is, I'm sorry, a total of 50. It would be only 15 acres. 15. So the table of permitted uses has also been further modified that should any multifamily proposal come forward on these parcels, that it would be a conditional use permit so that it would have public hearings before Planning Commission and City Council, as opposed to a permitted use where the administration or staff reviews it in compliance with our regulations and standards in the zoning code. So the table of permitted uses has been modified primarily to reflect no single family in the multifamily zones, and that all multifamily projects will be proposed as a conditional use permit. Then furthermore, we have refined the definitions in the various sections so that those definitions align with the state's definitions for mobile homes, manufactured homes, factory-built residential structures, which are also known as modulars, recreation park vehicles, attached, and dwelling or residence single family. And then there are minor amendments to the standards for multifamily suburban and multifamily urban. So that's the content, and the request this evening is to table this to a date certain, and I would recommend that be October 1st for the first reading, and then give you a month before the public hearing and place the public hearing on November 3rd. We deliberately skipped or recommend skipping October 15th, since that is the date that you will be reviewing the proposed budget for 2021. That's my brief presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll pitch in here. When we got this document, it looked significantly different than what we had looked at some time ago. And so several council, multiple council, let's just put it that way, had registered that they needed more time to look at this. As you and I discussed this morning, maybe it'd be a good idea to allow the council to really thoroughly take a look at this. And I appreciate you putting forth that idea that we could delay the initial posting till October 1 with a subsequent November 3rd. Council, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. We can delay it, but it's the same thing as delaying the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan lays out what we should be doing with the zoning, and this proposal goes directly against what the comprehensive plan states. So the reason why I am still a no vote on the comprehensive plan is the comprehensive plan isn't being followed. It's very clear that we're trying to diversify our inventory. Woodland Park is almost exclusively single family, I mean, relatively speaking. And the comprehensive plan says our goal is to change that. Another one is to make sure we encourage and facilitate multifamily development in multifamily zoning. And yet this thing, again, encourages single family in multifamily. So we can push this down the road, and that's fine. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. It allows single family in multifamily, which goes against encouraging and facilitating multifamily and multifamily, single family and single family. It allows both it allows single family or multifamily in multifamily. So right. That kind of goes against encouraging and facilitating multifamily with multifamily.
It only allows one single family home though in the multifamily.
Agreed right now. But I don't think there should be any multifamily.
Which would be a really stupid decision anyways. So
the one.
If I just may clarify.
Yeah, it would be, we would lose so much land for development of multifamily. That's my comment, Mayor.
Ms. Riley wanted to pitch in here.
If I may clarify, it does not impact the opportunity for apartments or townhomes or attached units in the multifamily zones. So I'd be happy to sit down with you and we can discuss line by line.
So I appreciate your offer, and I think I will be one of those people who will sit down with you if the council wants to take your suggestion and push this.
Absolutely.
Any other comments by council? I would make a motion that we table this to date certain October 1st on initial posting for us to have more clarity and understanding. Does that work? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Do we require a vote or anything?
Yes.
Yes.
I second it. Sorry.
Suzanne.
Mayor Carr, are you taking any comment prior to the vote?
Oh,
there is a hand.
I'm sorry. Yes, there is somebody who wanted to comment.
So do you withdraw your motion? Do you withdraw your motion?
Hold my motion.
Yeah.
Public comment, Mike McKay. Okay, very good. I repeat, I'll make a motion to.
What's that?
Rob's telling me there's a question.
Yeah, Craig Miller was on there. Did we already get his comment?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I don't see it on there anymore.
It's there.
Yeah. You gotta allow him to talk, Mayor. I can come up and
Just, yeah, you click on chat.
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Well, Mayor, my comments were actually
Mr. Miller, where are you located? Your name and location.
610 Pembroke Drive, Woodland Park, Colorado, 80863.
Thank you, sir.
My comments were basically on the Clear Creek, Fountain Creek situation. And was overpassed by the attorney and minimized by the attorney. My comments are we need to be more concerned about controlling the spread of Fountain Creek versus just cleaning it up. And it's going to come up in the future. Now, I realize that does not address what your comments are presently about the development, housing development.
Sir, I appreciate you. I apologize. This Zoom situation is really having problems for us, and I apologize that we didn't get your comments earlier.
But the lawyer was able to read it and was not passed on. So I appreciate it, Mayor Carl. I will take my hand down.
Thank you. Where are we at?
We can pull up the question if you want to see the text. As I understood it as we needed to make sure we addressed Fountain Creek. I took that as to we need support for cleaning it up. I apologize. I didn't understand the question as it was written. So I didn't intend to pass anyone over.
Sure, the erosion of the creek needs to be a concern. Yep, we all agree with that. I understand why you made an executive decision. Thank you. Do I need to repeat my motion? Could you read my first motion back to me, please?
Sure, Mayor. So your motion was to table the consideration of ordinance number 1383 to a date.
82, sorry.
82.
1382.
Agenda's wrong, yeah.
Ah, thank you. And to table it until the October 1st meeting. We'll have a first reading, and therefore some of you can sit down with Director Riley and discuss.
I second.
Thank you. I repeat that. I take that on consideration. Suzanne.
Case?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Neal?
Yes.
Paff?
Yes.
Zulawaga?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, you mind? I've got a request. We missed so during the discussion of the RFP, Deb Miller asked to make public comment. It's a little past it, but I don't know if you would honor that if you can allow her to make comment.
We're off. Okay. We're off book at this point, okay. So you bet.
Okay.
Right. I would like to just make a comment here as well, because I don't think we had any discussion. We had no opportunity for any comments from the audience, and I see there's even board members from the chamber, and I didn't have an opportunity. We just got a ballot, so I just like for the record to say that I'm disappointed in that as well.
I don't understand her.
Thank you, Mayor. Deb Miller, Woodland Park Chamber President. If I could take 1 second and say, I'm so sorry that I can't offer you tonight the chance to come on Saturday and tap the keg, which we've been doing with City Council for years and years and years. And that's been such a fun time to do. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to do that. I wanted to reach out tonight just to go on the public record. So letting the public know that our offer was to extend our operation of the Visitor Center, a one-time only offer. Certainly we think you should go out for an RFP. But the one-time offer was to offer it to you for free for 2021. When looking again at your lodging tax, which is a part of your packet this evening, you'll see that your lodging tax still isn't back where it normally has been. So I also wanted to reiterate tonight that this isn't the first time that the chamber has reached out to council to offer help. We've done that in previous years when former city manager David Buttery was here and the council was asking to meet an unrestricted fund balance. We were able to lower that by $10,000 and the city met the unrestricted fund balance. 2 years in a row now in 2019 and 2020, we have not received the full amount that's being batted around town of $42,800. That amount has not come to the chamber. That amount has been utilized by the city, as was mentioned in staff today for the signage. And then again, last year, it was not the same amount. So I do want to go on the public record to say that we have reached out. We've been a good collaborative partner with the city, and you've made your decision, and we'll move forward from there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, it's done.
So we will have more discussion down the road, maybe at RFP time, or maybe not. We're down to public hearings, which means I have to read this thing. Council members use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that as a common practice of the City Council, that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during public hearings. We have item 9A, consider a 5-year extension to Top of Paradise amended master plan to August 4th, 2025. Sally Riley, please.
Thank you, Mayor Carr. I'll pull up a brief PowerPoint to set the stage for this request. Oh, huh. That's not it.
Takes me longer.
This is not a very successful technology evening, I've observed. We have those days.
Yes.
Yes, I apologize.
I don't like being too above them to talk. Don't appreciate it.
There it is.
Which one?
This PowerPoint right there. We'll have to share it. While we're getting the PowerPoint up, I'll read the consideration. This is the Top of Paradise amended master plan extension to consider a 5-year extension of the Top of Paradise amended master plan to August 4th, 2025. The remaining area within this master plan is approximately 138 acres and planned for a maximum of 190 single-family units within the entire 200-acre master plan area. The subject property is generally located northeast of Thunder Ridge Drive and southeast of Majestic Parkway in the suburban residential zone. The extension is requested by Craig Nelson, Thunder Ridge Haven, LLC, and Andrea Rodriguez, Paradise Estates representative. So tonight is the public hearing for this extension. And I'll begin by sharing with you the location of the entire Top of Paradise. Extent is outlined in red and extends up by Forest Edge, a subdivision behind the high school, and then past Thunder Ridge and Majestic Parkway, and then up toward King's Crown and a small area, in fact, in the middle of King's Crown. So this area was master planned in 2005, and that was when the developer of this area, Mr. William Brown, had proposed a preliminary plat for 56 acres that's outlined in green. And that 56 acres now has been completed with final plats. And the balance of the property now has about 47 acres on the northern end of the 200 acres. And then the southern end is Andrea Rodriguez, and that's about 89 acres total. Not too long ago in April, the Haven at Paradise was approved for a preliminary plat, which was generally in this area, and that is 35 acres with 24 lots. Most of you will recall that. So the purpose of a master plan is done when a property owner proceeds with a preliminary plat, and if they own the property adjacent to that preliminary plat, the subdivision regulations require that the adjoining property be master planned. And the purpose of the master plan is to ensure that the surrounding development to the preliminary plat has been thought through, at least on a conceptual basis, so that the road network works, the utilities can feasibly work, and it's a very good planning tool in order to ensure that there is compatibility between the preliminary plat and the surrounding property. So in 2005, when Mr. Brown brought forward the first preliminary plat, he was required to master plan the entire 200 acres. And this is the amended master plan that was approved in August 4th, 2005. The northern section is shown in green, and it's 47 acres, about 44 lots. This middle section is already final platted, and then the blue section outlined is the 89 acres under Miss Rodriguez's control at this point. And right here is the Haven at Paradise that was previously preliminary platted last April, a year ago, April. So this entire area is limited to a total of 190 residential lots. The minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet, but most of these lots are larger than that. So with that, we request that council approve this extension, and that both the staff and the Planning Commission believe that that is a wise thing to do at this point. We have not had any changes in our subdivision regulations that would cause us to pause and think that the validity of this master plan is no longer necessary. Mr. Nelson and his daughter Jessica are here this evening if you have questions for them. And then Andrea Rodriguez should be, Rob, on Zoom, so you can elevate her to a panelist if you'd like.
Thank you, Sally. Do any of the applicants have a presentation or comments they'd like to make?
There we go. Yes, please. Let me.
Need your name and location of residence. Municipality is good enough.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for considering our application. I'm Craig Nelson, my daughter Jessica. We live on Skyline Court in Woodland Park. I don't have anything significant to add to Sally's comments, except that It is the concept. We own the property behind the high school, basically 47 acres. And although it's a concept, it's a very well thought out concept, and a lot of time and a lot of money has spent on developing the property. By way of example, I've got 69 pages of civil engineering drawings here by Cvr Engineering, which I'm not going to bore you with. You can see them if you want. But we've been working with Mike Bramlett from Cvr Engineering and Jim Hogg from Kimley Horn. And it is a concept, but I think it's a concept that benefits the community because it's a concept that, and it's a nice area, and the concept that we're in is it's a continuation of that type of development. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you. Did I hear we have another applicant in the audience? Oh, Councilmember Case.
Thank you. And I just wanted to inquire a couple things about you. We haven't platted that, right? Yet, your 47 acres.
It hasn't been platted yet, but we do
master.
have a concept, which is what's on the screen right now.
Okay. And do you have any idea what your timeline looks like?
As soon as possible. We're working through with the engineers and the planners right now, frankly, coming up with what is the best way to go forward and develop it according to the plan.
Thank you, and good choice in engineering firms.
Thank you.
Could we be a little more specific on the time frame? Do you think you'll be moving forward in a year, 2 years, 3?
Yep, that's the plan, as soon as possible, as soon as we can get all of the designs and everything down. We have some topographical challenges on the eastern part that borders along the forest. So hopefully within the next year we start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zulaga.
What type of common spaces do you have in your design? I didn't really see them. It just looks like they're large lots. Are there any common areas, parks, anything like that in your design?
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Sally in terms of the parks. I think there's a fee that can be paid in lieu. We haven't gotten to the preliminary plat phase yet, but they're everything right now is platted or is planned for lots. But there would be, whatever the regulations require, whatever the code requires, we would comply with that. So if parks are required or a fee in lieu of a park or what have you, we're working closely with Sally and Laura and Kip and that to comply with everything that needs to be done. Okay. And we live in the area and probably will have one of those. So it's in our best interest too, to make sure it's, well done.
You're going to have 1 or 2 dogs in your neighborhood, so.
Oh yeah, plenty of dogs.
Did we promote the other applicant?
Thank you.
Who is it? Ms. Rodriguez, if you'd like to say some comments and in support of this, please.
Yes.
Municipality, please.
Yes, hello. I think you can hear me. You can't see me. I'm not sure how to fix that, but my name's Andrea Rodriguez. I actually live in Phoenix, Arizona, but I was raised and grew up there in Woodland Park. My father is William Brown, the one who originally did the master plan. And my brother and I are still working through the legalities of taking over Paradise Estates. And I just, having grown up in that area, having grown up in Paradise Estates, I know what a beautiful area it is. And so thank you for considering our application for extending the master plan in order to keep that area that way and the beauty, maintain it, that I remember so well.
I'd like to just comment and say, Ms. Rodriguez, I would like to just comment and say, I'm sorry for your loss of your father.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from discussion from the council at this point to either the planning director or the applicants? Seeing none, I'll open it up to public comment. We have somebody signed up, Tom Johnston. If you would like to come up, please, sir, just your name and municipality where you live, please.
My name is Tom Johnston. I live at 1301 Highway 24, space 31. It's the Woodland RV Park, where I reside. In 2018, me and my wife moved to Woodland Park, Colorado, to get a better understanding of life and a relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ. We learned so much that Elise graduated early this year, February 2nd, and I'm still learning. The circumstances made us go back to Colorado Springs until her passing, and I've moved back up here and are spending many days up on Haven and Paradise. That's where I start my walk, and I've actually walked all the way over to the Majestic Parkway on a trail. I've noticed that the subdivision plan, or the plat for Haven, is right on a trail that would be basically where a house or a street would be. Some of the times, one of the times walking through, there's Forest Service on one side of the subdivision, and then the open area where you can park on King's Crown and walk up. I guess you can walk all the way up to Rampart Ridge. And I went up that way the other day. There's from that parking area, you can actually walk all the way over to Majestic Parkway on this trail. My concern is fire safety. Right now, it looks like a fire truck or emergency vehicles could go right up, up through where the subdivision is going to be proposed. So one day, this trail is going to be a house or part of the road. I'm not sure of how that works. So, and then I actually took another, I saw there was another trail up higher, and I went higher up and followed that up until I reached the sign that was very nicely put that there is private property now. And the trail ends here. This is where the Forest Service road ends. And, please find your other trail out, which I did find today. But I've found in my different walks up there that I've been, I ran into, someone took me up all the way to the top of Rampart Ridge and then took me over. We went through a fence and then we came out on Majestic Parkway. Later on, I decided to take this trail by myself. And when I got up there, then I noticed they had added no trespassing signs. So I have two concerns. One is for the fire safety of when these subdivisions go into play and how, and what about the trails that will be affected by this new development? Are we going to be, stopped and, not allowed to continue on? I think that part of this solution would be, and I guess this is where, the next extension of this property will give us time to think about it. And time for me, I'll have to apologize because I'm new to all this stuff, and I'm just seeing some things up here that I really don't know a lot about. And so you guys will probably be more apt to explain to me how this is going to work. But just how would a fire crew get up into behind those houses to fight the fire that maybe be in the Forest Service land? And so I guess my appeal to you guys would be that maybe you could help me see a new plan of where these trails might go or where fire equipment might be able to access up behind those houses in the new subdivision. Anyhow, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We'll have the applicant after I open it up to the rest of the public. Is any other public questions or discussion? I don't see any up there.
I would just like to offer a suggestion to the gentleman that maybe Sally, as a staff person, and even the Forest Service could help you with those questions. It sounds like a lot of those trails are on private property and have been accessed just casually and not really addressed before. But I know that Sally and the Forest Service would be really happy to help you answer your questions.
Yeah, we're out of order here, but I'm going to close the public comment and then ask the applicant and Sally to address some of those if they would like.
Thank you for your comments. Fire hazards and mitigation are foremost in our community. So whenever a preliminary plat is approved, a condition is added that the developer do mitigation, fire mitigation, so that we can take care of the ladder fuels, the fuels on the ground, and some thinning. So that is an important aspect for us. With respect to the trails, what you're speaking about are what we classify as social trails. They are non-system trails. So a system trail is either one that has been accepted by the Forest Service or the city, and we have responsibility for maintenance. These trails that just occur because of the wildlife and the humans who are trudging through the forest are non-system trails. So the hope is at one day that we can work with the Forest Service and connect these trail systems in the public realm. You are hiking on private property and trespassing, so let's be mindful that there is private property, and in the planning, we will try to provide legal access. There is a legal access to the Forest Service from the city water tank site at the end of Lachlan Way. So, and then there's one at the end of King's Crown that you can utilize legally.
Thank you, applicant. If you, yes, Mr. Nelson.
I'd like to just say I share your concerns, particularly with fire, and I'd be happy to meet you at our property and walk you around so you could see what I'm about to say. I think it would be easier for the fire department to get into our property once roads are there, because right now the only way to really get in there is to drive down where the city's water line comes through our property. So I think that's better. But then once you get up to the topography, going up to the Forest Service, there's nobody's going to drive up there. And then as your comment about hiking, our property wouldn't interfere with any public trails that are there. So we wouldn't be precluding you from walking on public trails. But I'll talk to you after if you want to take me up on my offer.
Thanks, sir. Council, any final questions?
Just a comment. Yeah, I would just like to assure Mr. Johnston that I'm kind of speaking. We will very closely look at the planning with the planning director and the developer to make sure your fire concerns we follow the code. I know we're interested in fire. I know I personally am interested, and I know there's a couple other that are very interested. We will be looking out. We'll have your back on that one. And I think Sally can probably show you a lot of trails so that you are on public land. And we want to listen to you, but she's the expert, can help you out. Thank you.
Thank you. I will mention that that's my go-to the whole time I've been on council when I see these developments is ingress, egress, the fire. So that's a big check mark for me always. That's the first thing I go to, as many people up here know. So we're very conscious of that, especially where some of us live. City Attorney Myers.
So I apologize for not facing you while I speak, but for your benefit and the public's benefit, where we're at tonight in the process is just continuing forward with a conceptual plan. All of the concerns that you've raised and that we've talked about are addressed in the code and wouldn't happen until we look at preliminary plats and subdivision, et cetera. And all of that's required by law to do that. So it's not that we're glossing over that issue tonight. It's just right now we're looking at the conceptual, and then as the development moves forward, before anything additional happens, there's additional process that's required.
Yes, thank you. It's not on our radar tonight, but it's always in our mind. So Any other questions and discussion from council? Seeing none, I'd entertain a, let's see, are we at the I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider to pass the 5-year extension of the Top of Paradise amended master plan to August 4th, 2025, as presented by the staff.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Labar,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Path,
Yes.
Zulawaga,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Case.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We're down to 10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. 10, new business. There is no new business. We're down to reports. All right. Today is Constitution Day, and I'm sure some of my colleagues here will go into that in more detail. So I'm just going to read off the rest of the events. On Friday, September 18th, Farmers Market. On Friday, September 18th, we have the Fall Downtown Cleanup Day hosted by Woodland Park Main Street from 9 a.m. to noon, and we'll meet in front of Gear Lab at 8:45 for assignments. Wear hats and the usual outdoor gear, maybe parkas, I don't know, we'll see. Just kidding. Saturday, September 19th, sidewalk sale. There's great deals all throughout the town. On Wednesday, September 24th, tax deferral seminar, 8 o'clock a.m. to 9:30 a.m., hosted by the Greater Woodland Park Chamber. I've seen lots of social media posting of that, so I appreciate that, Debbie. Thursday, October 1st, Lunch and Learn, value proposition canvas from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., hosted by, once again, the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce. I have a liaison report, which I was gratefully reminded of today. The Historical Preservation Committee, which I sit on, we've got a great transportation poster we're going to be publishing in one of our annual things that they do. They're always terrific. I'm going to get mine framed and pay for a frame and things like that because we'd like to put them up in our house. They're so nice, but that will be coming. We've got a grant request into Newmont Mine to remove asbestos in Midland Depot. It's a project we've been talking about for years, and hopefully we can get some assistance from those folks. And we're also in the design phase, I think, at this point for interpretive panels for the COG rail car over at Bergstrom Park. With my other hat on PPACG, Board of Directors, we're talking about the overlay of US 24, and that's the bypass situation has also been under consideration, even though I was informed by the former chair that we was surprised by our resolution that we put out a while ago and said, well, we just put out our 20-year plan. I said, well, can we do our 19-year plan next year? So we'll see about that. We've also got a strategic plan from PPACG. All these things affect us. We have a fairly hefty dues that we pay for this service. And so they have money that they get us up here sometimes. And we're looking at long-term, some big projects. That's all I've got. Mayor Pro Tem Labar.
I don't have anything really specific, but because of the topic this evening, I'm starting to think maybe it would be great if I combined forces with Sally and we do some kind of public education on land ownership, land use, and property rights. I find it really interesting. I've seen some comments in some of the planning meetings prior where people are really upset about someone wanting to develop their land. And they say, well, I moved here and I like those trees and I walk that property and I take my dog over there and yeah, but it belongs to someone else. And I just find it fascinating that I don't know how people don't have the concept that it is owned by someone. It is not just there, free for all. Even parks are owned by taxpayers. And then a lot of it's private land. So I find it interesting. And I find the lack of knowledge fascinating. Or maybe it's emotion that people experience. I love trees, I appreciate the land, I love the open space, but I understand that the lot next to me is owned by someone, and someday that someone is either going to choose to develop it or they will sell it and that person will choose to develop it. And I know the only way to stop it is for me to purchase that land so that I then control it, or get a group together if I can't afford it and have the group purchase it. And what I think is interesting is just the lack of knowledge in the community, the whole community as a whole. It's not one person. And I really appreciate the gentleman that got up and spoke. I am so grateful that you came politely and admitted that you weren't sure and you wanted those answers. And this is the right, appropriate, proper place to do that. Because I see a lot of people doing it on social media, and then other people who don't know the right answer just spouting whatever they feel, not necessarily what they know. And then there's all this mischaracterization out there. So anytime you have a question about what's going on with development or the city or legal process, come to council and ask, or email us, call us, let us know. We will meet with you on not council nights. We will meet with you for coffee and lunch, whatever you would like, to help you better understand how these decisions are made, that we do follow code, we do follow law, and property owners have property rights, and people's rights don't trump one another's. It's impossible. The only way your rights are trumped is if someone is violating the law, but not by following the law. And I think that maybe Sally and I could offer some type of public education on this issue that could possibly help. I don't know that it would. I don't know that people would attend it, but I think that it could really be useful. So that's my thought for the evening.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm going to interject. I see one thing that Suzanne wrote for me that I forgot to mention before I get to Councilmember Case. I apologize.
No.
We have a work session next week on Thursday, of course, because our favorite day is Thursday, on the 24th of September. We're going to start at 5:30. It will be principally a budget discussion. And with that, Councilmember Case.
Yes.
So 5:30 means, yes, we know what that means.
I'm making a note. Bear with me. Thank you. I want to just take a moment, since we didn't have an opportunity to comment on, to explain my no vote on the RFP process. I just want to clarify that over the years, I think I have spoken in favor of a competitive process for the visitor center contract. So it's something that I have thought was necessary and needed and would be healthy, not for any reason whatsoever other than to just go through the process. We do that for a lot of services, banking services, different things like that, as a city, to always be sure that we're giving opportunity to everyone and to check where we're at and make sure that we're operating in the best and efficient manner that we can. So it is a responsible thing to do. The reason I voted no is that we had no opportunity for discussion, and we had no opportunity for people in the audience that I know were here, because I see some of them, to speak on the subject. So I just wanted to clarify that for the public and explain my vote. The second thing I want to talk about is something really cool. Last weekend, the City of Woodland Park Safety Committee and Keller Williams office here in Woodland Park partnered together. Keller Williams was unable to do their electronics recycling event that we do annually in July because of COVID. And so the city and Keller Williams partnered this last Saturday for that event. We had planned 2 hours, and there were people lined up on every intersection, all the way spilling onto 24 down Pine Street at the end of our 2 hours. And so a couple of agents and I in the office paid the recycling company to extend an extra hour, and it was perfect. We were able to accommodate everyone who wanted to come and bring their electronics to recycle, and we had a record year. Of the 5 years Keller Williams has been doing that, we recycled as a community 32,000 pounds of electronics on Saturday. That's huge, huge. I don't think that we've even approached 30,000 in the past. So this was huge, and I want to just thank the community for coming out and saving those things from going in our landfill that don't belong there. So thanks to the city for partnering. And thanks to the community for participating. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Neal.
I have 4 comments. Are you going to cover the Main Street mini cleanup? No. Okay, then I'm going to, just a reminder that we have the Main Street mini cleanup tomorrow, 9 a.m. Link up location is at the Woodland Square.
At 8:45.
At 8:45?
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
No, that's when they're going to assign people different places. Come early, in other words.
Come early. Yeah. The second is a reminder with the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful budget released. We now have been moving forward with our September 26th cleanup. The time is 9 a.m. and we will be meeting at the Midland Green Pavilion. Third comment, I apologize to David Buttery. It's not Butterfield. I apologize. And the last thing, kind of a follow-up. I think what Ms. Labar talked about is really important. And I want to make sure people understand when I get testy about single family and multifamily, I think the application for the single family units in the SR zone is a perfect match for the comprehensive plan. My objection with the ordinance is I think we have a little bit of a mismatch when we put single family in the multifamily. So I agree, the understanding of property owners have rights, but I'm just trying to put some meat around the comprehensive plan so we follow that and its spirit and intent if we're going to be spending $50,000 on top of DOLA's $50,000 in the future. So I just want to make sure we do the zoning permitted use tables correctly. And thank you for allowing me the 4 comments.
Councilmember Paff.
Yeah, just a quick Constitution Day statement. I mean, today is one of the most momentous days, not just in our country's history, but in world history. Prior to the Declaration of Independence and our successful prosecution of a revolution as a nascent country, really, in many ways, others perceived us as a backwoods country, and you can't quite disagree with that at the time, historically, against the world's then greatest military power. And after successfully doing that, seeking God's grace for help, there are many times during the revolution when our leaders sought through prayer to seek God's guidance as they prosecuted the war and worked through the challenging times, many of which should have doomed the revolutionary effort to the ash heap of history and resubjugation of ourselves to then a power that was negative against us. We successfully worked through that period. We attempted an approach, a different constitutional approach at first, which was found to be quite inefficient in trying to keep the country together while maintaining the rights of individuals and of states. And so in 1787, the founders of our country got together in Philadelphia to consider a document that would guide the country, fix the problems that were then existent, problems which had been onerous to the prosecution of the Revolutionary War. Pardon my redundancy using the term prosecution. And got together privately to come up with a plan that would do the best job possible under the hand of men who were quite imperfect, though brilliant, knowing that they didn't know everything, seeking wisdom. Through the prayer of Benjamin Franklin, we found out afterwards, as well as through the consideration of history, men who were well educated in what happened throughout history. They came up with a document after great consideration, much wrangling over some weeks period. And as this story is told, Benjamin Franklin walks out of the meeting, is confronted with someone to ask what had happened. And I believe her question was, what have you given us? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. John Adams, who was not part of the Constitutional Convention, but was in Europe at the time as an ambassador to the new country, was sent a copy of the document and wrote back to his wife. And he said, after reading it, and to be candid, this was for him a shock, having looked at this document and what it really did. And frankly, in a sense of fear and excitement, wrote to his wife that our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other. When he used the terms moral and religious quite purposefully, because he knew he had Thomas Paine on one side and guys like George Washington on the other. Thomas Paine, the avowed atheist, but yet moral man who was concerned about great principles. He knew that he was not making this out to be some only and exclusively Christian effort, but an effort of men who sought an understanding of moral truth and of principles that would sustain a country, a nascent country that still had to strengthen itself. So for him, it was a shock whether or not there would be an ability to sustain this freedom in the long term. As we go down through many centuries, 2 centuries, a little bit more of our Constitution, this is the 233rd year, we have, for most of our history, been very good at maintaining this document as the foundation and bulwark of all we did through government and all that we respected and honored as people. We expected it of one another. We considered the moral foundations. I was privileged to have developed a friendship with Andrew Breitbart of Breitbart.com. Many of you might know who he is. He was an agnostic, at least while I knew him. But he said he loved the fact that freedom was founded, or that emerged from the Judeo-Christian ethic in Western culture, was a great foundation for what we could do in the future. I think that as we consider the power of this document, which is quite frankly under attack in ways we've rarely seen in our history. By the way, this is not exclusively the time that we've seen these challenges. They have happened before. They happened during the Civil War. They happened during some parts of the 19th century, and we saw great problems with it come up throughout the 20th century. But I think it's the most critical challenge that we've had in terms of our constitutional freedoms. So on this day, when we, as we should, honor our Constitution, let's remember that these principles, if they ever go away, will never be returned. And our understanding of those things must happen at every level of government and in everything that we do privately and publicly. So this is a fantastic day in our history. It's an exciting time. And I'm grateful for that Constitution, because without it, we would have never had the prosperity that we've had in this country. We would never have had the freedom that we have. I find it interesting that as assaults and attacks on our freedoms that are happening through the COVID-19 so-called pandemic, I'm not convinced so much that it is, but it certainly has caused us in our government to be challenged, that atheists are standing with people of religious faith right now for those First Amendment rights. I think this is a great time to come together, a great day to come together on those principles, and I hope that we'll honor and respect them and make it through the situation for the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Zuluaga.
That was great, Jim. Councilman Paff. Constitution Day for me is very, very significant. And I think it is for us as we move into this election this November. And, you know, I was raised overseas, and I came back with a thirst for the Constitution, knowing what made America so different. It takes living overseas to really understand that we have something very, very different and distinct in this country. And there's a big talk right now about doing this Prop 113, which is the, you know, my vote counts. The founders were so absolutely amazing in what they put together. They studied Locke, they studied the democracies, they studied what the Greeks did. They looked at all these different forms of government. They looked at forms of government that had been lost for 1,100, 1,500 years. And they put together this you could call it a hybrid, but it was such a balance of power that took it, you know, just simply in the old days, it was a king. The king told the serfs what to do, the serfs told the people what to do. That was it. And if you're from the religious side, the church told you what to do, what God thought, and how you should act, and then you were under their order. Well, about the time the founders started stirring and the pilgrims started to move, they printed the Bible into English and into German and other languages, and the people got to read what the Word of God said. So all of a sudden, all of these religious hierarchs were like going, wait, don't read it. And they're going, hey, look what this says. It says we're free people. And we flipped from being run by kings, run by priests, to being people who God could talk to personally and reveal his truth to us. And we created a system of government that allows the self-direction of self-responsible people. Now you got all these fierce fighting between each of the states because each state says, nope, we're doing it our way. We don't care what you're doing. Poor George Washington had a heck of a time defending, raising up the army to defend the United States against the Brits because nobody wanted to pay him. You know, Rhode Island said, nah, we're not giving you any money. Virginia said, well, you know, we'll see, maybe down the road. And so he was trying to work with all these fiercely independent states who didn't want to work together. The Articles of Confederation, which came before the Constitution, just didn't work. It didn't effectively bring together unity. And now we have unity in the United States, and people are saying, it's sad. It's sad. We've had at least 2 generations in our education system, possibly 3, that don't know the documents that founded us, that don't know the history and the background of what makes America such an amazing country that all the other countries in the world are going, what have you got? I want to come in. We build a wall to keep people out. Other places build a wall to keep people in. But anyway, that was the Vatican. So my point is that I'm so, as you can tell, I'm a little bit animated about it. There's fabulous education. The National Center for Constitutional Studies created a reenactment of the Constitutional Convention in a CD movie form and distributed to every single school, every single high school in the United States. Do you know that over 90% of the high schools in the United States absolutely ignore that today is Constitution Day? They absolutely ignore it. And yet it's okay to teach the children.
Can we stay on topic here?
Well, we are. It's Constitution Day. And understanding and keeping track of what is the founding of our nation, it's so pivotal. I can only encourage us all to get thirsty about it. It's not some ancient dust collecting document. It's alive and vital, and it's what will see us through to contain and maintain our freedoms. But we're giving away that power because we don't know what we come from. Constitution Alive is a series of classes. It's fabulous. So is the work of A 5,000-Year Leap by Cleon Skousen. So I would just commend people to that study to learn more about what it is. Share it with your kids and make it more than just a footnote in history, because we are history in the making. If we don't defend what our founders put in place, we're not going to have anything in the next 10 years. We will not. We will have other forms of government who are vying very strongly right now to say, the Constitution is irrelevant. What the founders put in place, it's irrelevant. There's all this new stuff. It's all more interesting and global and conciliatory and all this other stuff. And I just stand as a councilman. It's one of the reasons that I'm on this council, on this dais, because I'm concerned about where our future is going, and we have to hold those principles true.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate the day. And I thought, okay.
That's all on that topic, sorry. My other comment is to clarify what I read in the Courier this week. I made a comment last week that the city, we were talking about the vendor fee, and I said the city has not been harmed. The city has not been harmed, and the businesses have. And then I think it's very important that we look at that balance, because if we help our businesses, they will help us as a city. And if any of you have the packet today, you're going to see the evidence of exactly what I'm saying. The Courier countered it with the city manager's comments about losing or having employees on furlough. Well, that is such, number one, that's not a loss. That's not an impact to the city. That's an impact to those individuals who are furloughed. And the government has cured them by giving them unemployment. And it was, as you've seen in the discussions, very generous, and some people didn't want to come back to work because they got more on this unemployment through the COVID. But the numbers that I want to let you know, so that you're clear that the city has done well through COVID. If you look at the revenue numbers for sales tax since January through July, which are the only ones we have record of, the city has had an increase in sales tax of $309,422, right? And if you look at that, that's a 8.8% increase in sales tax. Now, that's what the city has to work with. Not only that, in Teller County, we did a fabulous job of circling the wagons in Teller County to protect against COVID. We raised up a standard. We have all sorts of facilities up in Teller County. Here we have an emergency hospital, all sorts of things. It was fabulous what we did. For that first month, it was like, hey, nobody's going to get into Teller County. This is totally tight. And so that costs the city of Woodland Park. It cost us, I think Darren will confirm, it's about $80,000 is what it costs the city to support the work of Teller County and to support the work of COVID on a regional level. Well, the funds that the government has given us, they gave Teller County like $2.2 million. Of that, the portion for Woodland Park was $674,000. $174,000 of that went back to the city of Woodland Park, not only to pay the city back the $80,000 that it cost them to support the work of Teller County, but there's an additional almost $100,000 that the city has the ability to do all sorts of things like spend $50,000 for computers so that the staff can work from home remotely. Contrast that to the business community. The only thing the business community can do is to apply for funds for COVID-related expenses, but it doesn't restore the businesses for the COVID loss that they are carrying, each one of them, just to survive. So there's very specific, if you look at the DOLA requirements and the federal government requirements for this $500,000 that's supposed to go to the business community, look at the number of applications we have. It's problematic because, in my opinion only, it's problematic because the requirements are so narrow that the businesses can't benefit from it. And it doesn't deal with the fact that the businesses in our community have not been restored. There's a few. I mean, the big box stores have done very well, and that's why the city revenues are so strong. But the small business hasn't. So I go back to saying that I wanted to clarify it for the record and for the Courier that the city of Woodland Park is made whole, very much whole. Our business community is not, and I encourage us to be sensitive to the fact that what makes our community strong is strong businesses. That's where the revenues come from. City does not generate wealth. They spend it. So on that, I just wanted to thank you for that clarification from last week.
So I want to remind council of our council procedures. I'm going to read it from our council procedures. Reports should be confined to public service announcements, liaison reports, and other community-based announcements or presentations. No personal or ad hominem attacks or election campaigning shall be allowed. And we have mayor's report, council reports, city attorney's report, and city manager's report specifically. So I recognize that we're celebrating a special day here, but in the future, I would really like the council to stick to these issues and any editorials. I'm sure the paper would welcome them. City attorney's report.
Under those guidelines, nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I have nothing to add. Thank you, though.
City manager.
Ignoring those guidelines, I won't say anything yet. I don't want to necessarily respond, but I'd just say that there might have been a misinterpretation of what was in the article, because my intent was to highlight that we did have 44 furloughed employees during COVID-19, and I do feel like they have been impacted just like any other of our residents in the community that have lost their jobs temporarily, and so they're subject to the same unemployment as all of our other residents. As you know, the city of Woodland Park is one of the largest employers in Teller County, and losing 44 employees, even for that temporary time, and the services that we provide was impactful. And so, that was truly my intent, because I do care for our employees and the impact that COVID-19 has had on their lives, and do care about our businesses and our residents who have been impacted in a similar way. So I hope that was not misinterpreted. That's all I have on that one. So let me just talk about the Cvr applications that were actually alluded to in that conversation. And that I just want to give you the number just to give you an update. This month we have 16 resident applications of the resident program, and 4 of those are complete. So we're still working through the other 12 of those to get the applications complete. There are 16 business and nonprofit applications that have been supplied, and 11 of those have been completed. So that's the current numbers that we have. We are keeping the application first review open until September 30th. We'll keep it open, obviously, until revenues are exhausted, but the intent is to do our first review on the 30th of September. Any questions about that? I hope I can answer it. Okay.
Do you have a total number, a dollar amount, if you took all 16 of them?
It will be different because, well, the resident one is $500 a piece, right? If you qualify for that, but the actual nonprofit and businesses are subject to those expenditures. So it could be slightly different. It's up to a certain amount. That's the thought process, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So it'll be subject to that.
Well,
analysis.
without a cap. Right now, if you were to add up all 16 ballpark.
Let me do the math. Let me do the math real quick.
Is it more than the $500,000?
No.
No, 16 times. Or
that's what
right now we're about 80,000 in general.
Perfect.
Just doing the beginning of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. So I have 2 other reports. I've got, as was discussed earlier, the sales tax report. I'll have Emily Katsimplis come up, our finance director, to give the sales tax report, and I'll finish with Kip Wiley to provide an update on the city council chambers roof, as discussed at the last meeting. Emily,
thank you, Darren. So a couple things that we did get. I think we got at least 3 more physical applications in just today for businesses. So every day they're kind of trickling in that I'm seeing, and then those get passed on to the CVRF manager. Something else I want to point out with the unemployment is that most employees that are part-time do not receive unemployment. It's usually reserved for folks that are have full-time jobs, so there's requirements there. So please keep that in mind, because a lot of the employees that were furloughed were part-time, and so they didn't receive anything. So As far as our sales tax, yes, we continue to do relatively well despite the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic that's happening. So sales tax, as you saw in your packet, transactions in July, collected in August. Month to date, 7.3% up over 2019. And year to date, 8.8% over 2019, which is 5.6% over budget. So please keep in mind that our budget, there's always an inflationary factor there, excuse me. And then lodging tax is has been very affected by the pandemic. And you will see in your packet, we caught up a little bit in July, but we are still 32% down from 2019. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions.
And if I can, Emily, we still touch on, when we talk about sales tax, that's not our only, obviously, revenue stream that we have. We also have state revenues that are down and will be down significantly over.
Yeah, highway user tax fund is, we are predicting for 2021, it's at least a 50% drop, if not more, 60% from 2020 to 2021.
Which is why the thought is that there's almost the 5.6% that we have right now in terms of sales tax is almost completely mitigated by the loss in state revenue. So just want to make sure that people understand that it's really not, I mean, I know we're doing well in terms of sales tax, but other revenue streams are not doing as well. It just happens to offset those increases. So just from a financial health perspective, it's pretty much flat.
That's correct.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to comment, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
That I just want the city employees of this organization to know that they're just as important as every other employee in our county, and they are very important to this organization. They're very important to the services we provide our citizens every day, and I want them to know that I, for one, am very grateful to them and know that they have suffered as much as anyone else that has furloughed in any organization and or have lost their jobs. So they're important, and it's important to see that they get back to work, if here or somewhere. And I just want them to know that.
Thank you, Councilman Case. And we contribute to the economy too. We pay taxes. We're not tax exempt when we go to the store and shop and contribute to the economy either. So please keep that in mind.
Kip Wiley, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be quick. To date, our Parks, Buildings, and Grounds crew chief has met with 2 roofing contractors for City Hall. We have only received one bid or one proposal of just short of $9,500 to fix the roof.
Excellent.
So just to highlight what Kip has said, in the last meeting, we discussed going forward and fixing the roof. We're going to have potentially another estimate that'll come in. If it comes in lower, we'll certainly take a look at that and take advantage of that. But the intent will be to come back to City Council when we provide the supplemental amendment to the budget, and I just want to make sure we're good on that. It seems like that council from that is in consensus that we go ahead and move forward with that. So, okay.
Yeah, I hear no objections.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Suzanne, you're very close.
Thanks, Kip.
I am very close. I said the meeting would conclude at 9 p.m. And what time is it, Mayor?
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Yeah.